afternoon. Hello. Welcome to the TCM meetings. You know, in this place, we try to stop between films and to talk about them. Today, we have three crews from three different movies from different countries, from different styles. We have a film from Japan, a film from Switzerland, and a film from, produced by Spain and Poland. With a Pamplona director. So we will have many different directors, many different countries, and we would like you to give everyone a big applause, not just for them coming here, but just for the effort that they made to produce their films. Well, our first crew is an animation film that participates in the section Pearls. It's called Mirai, my young sister, and it is directed by Mamoru Osoda, who already was in the festival in 2015, and we have an interpreter with him who is going to help us. Although we share the language of cinema, it is important that we have an interpreter to help us understand each other.
Vamos a empezar hablando del tema de la película.
So let's talk about the topic of the film. The main topic is how the arrival of the first son affects a couple. I mean, there are a lot of films about a couple having their first child, but there aren't many films about the second child, which is the topic of this film.
映画の中で描いてることっていうのは大体僕が実際体験したことで、今僕の子供は5歳と2歳なんですけど、映画を発送した時は、3歳と0歳で、その新しい家族、赤ちゃんがうちにやってきた時に、うちの上の子がすごく大きな反応を示していたっていう風なところが非常に面白いと思ってこの映画を着想しました。
Los temas que aparecen en la película Mirai.
The subjects I deal with in Mirai are real facts that happen in my personal life. When my children are 5 and 8 now, but when I started the project, my eldest was 3 years old, and the small girl, the little girl, just arrived. And I saw a very huge reaction by my son, so I wanted to show this reaction in the film. So the character of the father in the film is very interesting. I would like to talk further about it because it's shown from the point of view of the eldest child. Why?
つまりそれはなんかその下の子が生まれた時にやっぱりその上の子は非常にこう恐れたんですね。つまりその親の愛がその赤ちゃんに全部いってしまって愛を奪われた気持ちになって非常にこう床を転がって泣き叫んでいたっていう。でその姿を見て僕はなんか人間っていうのはやっぱ愛がないと生きられないんだな。で実はその人間の人生っていうのは全てこう愛を得たり失ったり奪ったり奪われたりっていうのが人生だとすれば、その一番最初人間の一番最初の姿がこの床で転がってね、赤ちゃんに親の愛を奪われて泣いてる子供が愛をめぐる一番最初の出来事だと思ったんです。でそれは非常にこう人間の人生を描くっていうふうなことにとってすごく大事なことなんじゃないかと思ったんですね。
I
chose the point of view of the eldest child because when the little sister arrived, the baby arrived, his reaction was very depressed and he was crying all the time. And I realized how important love is in the life of people. To feel that one has lost love is a very important topic. And my child thought that he had lost the parents' love in favor of his sister. So Mirai is the film that explains this emotional earthquake in the child. Let's see some images.
この夏、細田守監督最新作。甘えん坊の男の子、くんちゃん。くんちゃんが出会ったのは未来からやってきた妹、未来ちゃんでした。そして始まる小さなお兄ちゃんの不思議な大冒険。見たことのない世界。初めての体験。たくさんの出会い。時間も空間も超えて2人がたどり着いた。
Ahí veíamos algunas imágenes. Se podía.
These were some images. Here you could see that starting from a very realistic story, you put a lot of fantasy in your film, showing everything that happens in the child's head. So how is it that you develop the film from this realistic point of view to fantasy?
これはね、やっぱりそんな難しくもないんです。っていうのはやっぱり自分の子供と一緒にいるとですね、自分もその子供の年齢と一緒になってもう一回子供時代を生き直しているような気持ちになるんですね。だからこの映画で描かれているくんちゃんっていうのは自分の子供の頃であり、もう一個は自分の少年時代と同じだと思うんですよね。で、やっぱりその中で彼がそのファンタジーの世界を通して家族の、歴史の中から、どういうふうに自分自身のアイデンティティっていうふうなことを得ていくかっていうことについての物語を作ることにしました。
I
wanted to be inside the head of this 4-year-old, but it was not that easy because first of all it's my child, so it's difficult for me to get into his head, and secondly because a 4-year-old being inside his head allows you to live again what I experienced when I was 4 years old, but that is wonderful and very difficult at the same time. So I decided to use fantasy, and I also used some material from the past life of my family, of my relatives. And I'm very interested in the character of the father, as I already mentioned. The father is someone who is trying to adapt to a new life for which he was not really prepared. Is it your autobiography, or is it just trying to show the effort of the Japanese society to adapt to a new kind of society?
同じような感じを受けました。ただし父親がすごい日本社会の中でこういう新しいロールっていうんですか、役割っていうのをしてるっていうのはすごいいいことかなじゃないかと思います。そうですよね。日本社会ってとっても古めかしくて伝統的で昔ながらの社会って思われるかもしれませんけども、やっぱりその変化少しずつやっぱり変化していくと思います。やっぱりその男と女の昔からの役割っていうのはやっぱり変化していて、お母さんも外働きに出るし、お父さんも抱っこ紐を抱えて赤ちゃんを抱っこする姿が珍しくなくなってきました。やっぱりそういう変化の過程にある今の社会において変化していく社会のありようっていうのを映画の中に記録していくっていうのは非常に大事なことじゃないかなと思います。
Very often, Japanese society, seen from the Western world, it's seen as being very traditionalist, very conservative. But if you look at the character of the father, it develops in time. So it's not very difficult nowadays to see fathers in Japan carrying their own babies in their backpacks. And so Japanese society is adapting well, and this is what I wanted to show. Thank you very much for coming here to the festival and for having time to talk to us about this wonderful, fantastic film on the relationship between two siblings and their parents.
Bueno, pues nuestra siguiente
And our next film is a production that is competing in new directors. Nice to meet you. How are you?
Española se titula El Corredor.
So the film has different titles in Spanish and in English. In English, it's Midnight Runner. In Spanish, it's just a runner. And we have with us the director, Hannes Baumgartner, and we have Gaetan Varone, the photography director. And
this is a real story that happened some years ago. My first question would be why you were interested in the story and how you discovered it.
Maybe my producer can speak about this because he was a professional runner about the time the events happened, and he found himself in the same starting lists as the later offender. And yeah, he approached me with this idea. Yes, maybe you want to say something about that.
Yeah, the film is based on a true story, as you mentioned, and this story took place in 2002. And at this time, I was around 16, and I was a runner too. I don't know if I was professional runner, if you can say professional at the age of 16, but I trained 5 to 6 times per week. And when this crime case happened, I was really shocked and touched at the same time, because it was in my neighborhood, and later the police found out it was a runner, that this offender was a runner. And yeah, I was emotionally really involved. And 10 years later, when I studied at film school, this case just came up my mind, and it didn't went away. And I knew at film school it wouldn't be possible to produce this film, because normally at film schools you produce short films, but after film school I knew that need to be one of the first projects I like to produce. And luckily I studied together with Hannes at the film school, and he realized some short films that I thought were really similar in a way to this story. And I talked to him about this case, and I think he was touched in a way you can be touched from this tragic case, but he was affected, and that's when we started to develop this project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me it was really the contrariness of the main character. He's a really well socially integrated person into society. He has a stable relationship. He's a top athlete. He's a trained cook. And on the other side, there is this violence. And I wanted to explore this contrariness of why is this.
Mm-hmm. Bueno, pues esta historia a la que hacen mención, la historia del corredor.
So this story is a true story about a runner who is preparing to participate in the Olympic Games, and he has a very integrated life in society, a very stable one, but he had a very, very dark side. Let's watch some images.
Wir investieren mehr Zeit in dich als irgendein Läufer in diesem Verein. Du bist der Einzige, der auf der Olympia trainieren.
Achtung, und los. 3, 2, 1.
In letzter Zeit hat er ein bisschen schlafen.
Spät heimgekommen gestern.
Ja.
Ich bin immer für dich da. Hau ab! Arschloch! Was ist eigentlich los mit dir?
Una violencia que no vamos a contar de dónde termina.
It is a violent story, and we won't reveal the end. But
I think that is a very big risk, but because I think that you could be, it's not my case, but you could be accused of defending violence, of view all the story from the personal view of I don't want to say killer, I would like to say a violent man. Did you think about that risk before making the film?
Yeah, we thought a lot about it because we really wanted to explore this spiral development of the violence and why does it happen to, and it's really a bunch of cues and reasons why this happens, but at the same time we try to keep a sort of a distance to the main character. I think the spectator is in the same situation. Does he feel towards the character, or is he rejected? And I think this process will, or at least I hope this process will lead him to think about why the violence happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And did you find any answers to the story? Why he acted like he acted?
I think it has a lot to do with at first with his brother and his childhood, the loss of his brother, but also the way he's constantly looking for affection. He's constantly looking for and he can't cope with rejection, and he's a person that can't deal with his emotions, and that's why in the end he reacts with violence. I think.
Nos acompaña también Gaetán Bagón, que es el director.
We also have the photography director Baron with us, and I think he's
very difficult to shoot because there are many night scenes and there are a lot of run scenes. How was your work in those aspects?
Yes, in fact, it's when you have like 3 pages of script and the guy is running, then it's really hard to shoot it. But we found like very cheap solutions. We had like some vehicles, different ones, and but it's really hard to get these shots, like this long shot, where you can give the freedom to a director and to the actor to act like for 3 minutes and running. So it's but we found lots of ideas, and we had like good collaborators, good workers with us, and we mostly shoot handheld, so it's very easy to react when you have like something when it's improvised. Yes.
Mm-hmm. I wonder what happened to the real character. Is he still alive? Have you been in contact with him?
No, we were in contact with his foster mother, and he hung himself in prison after his arrest.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any reaction from her, from the foster mother?
Yeah, it was really important for us to also get in touch with the people while the research process, and it also there's a documentary also about this case some years ago, and I think she did a process there, and she wanted to rest, that the story can rest, but she gave us the freedom to do a fictional view on the case.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we wouldn't have done the film without her will to do it. So that was important for us. I think we couldn't manage to work on a film that affects this woman so much. So that's also a question of moral, I think, for us.
Mm-hmm. The real story happened in the early 20s, in the early 20s, and you decided to move it to 2014. Why that temporary move?
Yeah, that was also to create distance to the real events. That was important to us. We tried to really closely study the main character, his behavior, his disposition, and but with the surrounding, with his social environment, we tried to create a distance also to the involved persons.
I'm curious about that strange run. He's the champion, the champion of the arms run.
Yeah,
the army run.
I had never seen it. Could you explain a little bit what's about?
That's a Swiss specialty, actually. That's a Swiss sport. It only exists in Switzerland. I don't know why exactly, but it's very traditional. So it started after the Second World War, and it's from the military, of course, and it was really popular in Switzerland 30 or 40 years ago, so there were over 100,000 runners, but nowadays it's there are only 200 or 300 people at one race. But we shot actually at a real race, so what you see in the film, it was shot on during a real race, so we put our main actor into the real race, and it was, maybe Gaetan can talk something about that, because it was
and the marathon too. The marathon was a real marathon, Berlin Marathon.
No, it takes place in Bern, but we have to
was
mention that,
too, yeah.
that this race is like as long as a marathon distance, so it's 42 kilometers, and they're like running with weights on their shoulders, so it's even harder. And it's a good training, I think, when you run a marathon without anything, only with your Snickers. So it's really intense. But yeah, we decided to shoot it real. So we have like we could find some real moments. So that was one of our goals, to catch the moment, you know, the real reactions of the people.
And for the camera crew, it should be a kind of a challenge.
Yeah, sure. I think it's a challenge, and it's really expensive when you have to build a team and have like 4 or 6 cameras running at the same time. But I think it's very important to have it, to be, you know, with such topics, which you have to keep the respect for the people. So you don't cheat, you don't put something together that's not true. So.
And the main actor, he's a runner too?
He had to become one.
Because he runs like a runner.
Yeah. I mean, I was a runner too, so it was from my side really important that he doesn't just play a runner, so that he really feels like a runner. So he had to train a lot for this role, of course. And he had a personal trainer, and he started maybe a year before the shooting, and to run, and I think 2 or 3 months before the shooting he augmented the training, so he trained, I don't know, 3 or 4 times a week, 3 months before the shooting, and he was really in a good shape, I would think. But after the last shot he started again to smoke cigarettes.
So he didn't keep running.
I don't think so.
Bueno, pues una nueva película de un nuevo director, pero una película.
Okay, a new film by a new director, but it is a very mature film on this character, in which you found a very interesting balance between the horror of his violence and the nice person that he is in his other life, so to say.
Thank you very much.
Well, how are you? So our third film today is also a film in the section Pearl, and it is called Another Day of Life, and we have Raúl de la Fuente and Damián Neno with us, the directors. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name, Damián. And it is based on a book by Richard Kapuscinski with the same title, Another Day of Life. And why did you decide precisely, why did you choose this book particularly?
Kaixo. Fue un flechazo, ¿no? Un enamoramiento.
It was, I fell in love with it. I had read everything in Kapuscinski, and I have discovered that this book contained all the elements that I find interesting in him. United States has just lost the war in Vietnam. It included espionage. It included, there are a lot of elements that I found very interesting, and it was like a kind of adventure. And his book, I think it's the most personal book he has written.
Lo que comentabas transcurre.
So it takes place in 1975 at the beginning of the Angola War. And the film, one of the things that has been said of the film, is that it is an animation film, but it contains also interviews and documentary footage. Why did you decide upon mixing these different formats and genders?
Se nos ocurrió así a Maya y a mí.
Well, we just had that idea and we decided to try and do it. It was an idea of Amaya and myself. And it is a look that is very useful in comic strips. So it was a kind of natural transition. We talked with Kapuscinski to obtain the rights to adopt it to film. And we just had that idea. I just wanted to show one Kapuscinski idea, which is that the world is full of borders, not just the political and physical borders, but there are many different borders. And he has a very fusioning style. So we wanted to create a kind of fusion that showed also some borders between styles and between formats. And I think his book deals with staying alive and fighting for life. And many soldiers were interested in him making a picture of them because they wanted to have a picture while they were still alive. So we all want to remain alive and to remain being remembered. And when you are a writer or a cinematographer, you're interested in being remembered by your work. Damian, how did you meet Raúl and what did you find interesting in this film when you heard about the story?
Oh, it was quite a long time ago, almost a decade, actually, over 9 years ago. Raúl just showed up in our place in Warsaw, in Poland, with I used to say it was crazy, but it's true. It was a bit crazy. The very idea of hybridity we were just talking about, mixing animation and documentary, almost the opposites. I mean, almost contradictory languages. But at the same time, it felt quite natural in context of Kapuscinski's writing. This is also something what Raúl just mentioned. He was mixing, I mean, his very formula, the essence of his writing was to mix facts, undeniable truth with a bit of creation, a bit of allegory, allegorical, magical realism. In this way, he was able to tell stories not from information, facts point of view, not from geographic points of view either, I mean, not from east to west, west to east, or north to south, but from within the man, from like through the prism of a man, and that was his style. And somehow, of course, within a huge simplification, we are utilizing a tiny bit of this formula, mixing these two languages, because what we have in documentary is like undeniable truth. This is 100% fact. Real people talking about their real emotions, real memories. And then we have animation, which is usually considered as a fiction, as a fantasy. We're not even pretending that it's different. The plan was to use the full potential of it. And so for me as animation director, it was a Christmas morning, actually. And the very writing of Kapuscinski, his descriptions, his poetry, it actually cries for animation. And it's like a rocket fuel, for your head. If you do animation films, it really stimulates you. So there was a chance to make a wonderful thing in animation, using its full potential, an epic film, and at the same time, a current film, important, meaningful film about something real, about real people, and not just the gallery of colorful pictures, but something real. I mean, there was no way for me to not sign up.
Bueno, pues como van diciendo, es una película de aventuras.
As you are saying, it is a very adventurous film, full of action, and you have made a miracle. You have resuscitated Kapuscinski. Let's watch some images.
Because this is a lesson drawn from history, that blood will flow. Africa is awakening.
Feels good, huh? Are you crazy? You're not taking a step out of this city. How many different ways can I tell you no?
There's my store. I don't need the permit if you take me there.
Oh, you're crazy.
Could be more serious, my friend. People die in war. It's important the world reads about it.
Are you a spy or what?
Ahí veíamos
Relax,
a
Carlota.
Kapuscinski, también algunos de los paisajes que habéis recreado.
Some of the landscapes that you have shown are from Africa, I suppose. Well, we couldn't see now some documentary parts of it, but I think you did a lot of research and you found people that participated in Kapuscinski's book, like Farrusko, for example. How was the research period? Was it easy? Was it difficult? It was passionating. I met these people, which was a real gift for me. And because they were hard men, you know, they've been 40 years fighting. And Farrusko, for those who don't know him, he comes from Portugal, and when he was 24, he went on this military service to Angola, and when the military service is over, he changes sides and he joins the militia in Angola, the group that was fighting for the independence of Angola. Imagine that. Imagine that you desert your own country to fight against it for the freedom of another country. So he's a giant, and we had 2 interviews. I went there in 2009 with Amaya, the producer, and then we followed Kapuscinski doing the same trip that he did and meeting the same people that he met. And we were getting some information about spies, etc. We traveled to the south. We met Carlota. And we also went farther south in military planes to meet Farrusko. And he is already a general, and he escorted us. It was like being a VIP in the army suddenly. And so imagine that we were escorted by the military and by Russians. And when we met Farrusko said, "Oh, stop here because I have a friend here who was very important at that time." And then we landed and we just stopped and we interviewed a man that didn't know that we were coming, a very nice man. And then we saw we had problems with civilians that wanted to jump on the plane, and then it was crazy, and they were jumping and hitting the walls of the plane, and I really enjoyed it. It was an adventure, and all the trips to Angola were really crazy. And I really got into that confusing and chaotic state that allows better creation somehow. So I wouldn't say that Kapuscinski is my biggest idol, but he is really an inspiration for me. It's incredible how everybody could remember him 40 years later, and they were able to repeat word by word parts of dialogues that they had with him, conversations they had with him. These very hard people could remember him very well. And I would like to know something about the techniques that you used in the film, because I was reminded of the looks of different animation films. So how was it? How did you decide on the techniques and the looks?
Also, it was a bit natural at the beginning because the whole thing was a kind of evolution of a style that I already established quite a long time ago within my not first, but one of my short films, Paths of Hate. I don't really remember when we did release it, but it was somewhere around 2006, I guess, the first teasers. Then somehow Raul found this film, and what was special about the look in the film, which is quite similar to what we have in Another Day of Life. This is a rather realistic motion, a rather natural and realistic filming style, camera motion, handheld cameras, rather convincing anatomy, no stylization within shapes, but a quite strong visual stylization that makes it look a tiny bit like comic book illustration. And what was special about it is that it has nothing to do with so-called cartoon. It does not make you think that it might be for kids. It is quite serious look, and Paths of Hate was also a war film about hate, and lots of I mean, the audience quite liked it because it was digestible for people who don't necessarily like animation, and we decided that this is probably the best way to portray this story, because we have a real people, really serious topic. We don't want to, and already the format is quite complicated. I mean, mixing those two languages, so we don't want to build too much contrast, actually, and this kind of a serious style of animation fits quite well. So that was just an evolution or optimization, actually, of the style that I had in Paths of Hate some long time ago.
Raúl, empezaste creo que 10 años atrás.
Raúl, you started 10 years ago with this story, and I know you went through very hard times, and the movie went through very hard times as well. And did you think sometimes that it wouldn't be finished at all? Yes, sometimes I thought such a film shouldn't exist. It's too risky, it's too expensive, it is too daring, and really, of course, I thought at a certain moment that it wouldn't be born. But you know, I come from Navarra, and in Navarra people never go back, not even to gain impulse. So I believed in what I was doing. Me and Amaya and Damien, everyone was believing in that. But many times it became a nightmare. But the good thing is that I always forget what is bad. I forget bad things. And being in Angola and talking about the birth of Angola as a country, and it was like giving birth of this film as well. And we made a lot of friends in Belgium, in Germany, and my family shared this passion with me. And it's been like a real gift to me. Now I'm here in San Sebastian, then I will go to Madrid, to France, to the United States, so I have forgotten about the bad things. So you didn't mention that it was presented in Cannes, and it's been one of the most important animation films of the year. So I already learned from you that I only need to say no to a Navarran person in order to have him doing something. Okay, so this is one of the most suggesting films I've seen in the latest years, and I hope that you start your next project right away, because I'm eager to watch it already. And I hope that you will come with it to San Sebastian as well. Well, this film will be shown in the theaters on October 26th. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the previous cruise as well. And thank you very much for the public, to the public for coming. See you tomorrow.